We're back with Sean Jordan, co-founder and CEO of StrataPress. Hi, Sean.
Hello. Good to be back. Happy New Year.
It is good to have you. This is a great topic. New year, everyone's thinking about what's going on. So let's dive straight in.
All right. Yeah, it's me. That's me.
Uh,
StrataPress.
and StrataPress, tell us a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we'll move on.
Okay. Well, we officially kind of launched in 2017, although we soft launched before that with a different platform. It's been 10 years. We sold our first documents. So my background, I was on 3 different councils, Strata councils, over a period of about 15 years. I acted as the Strata president. My background's in online technologies. I've produced hundreds of online projects for companies around the world. I did complete my property management licensing course, but I never worked as a property manager. I just got it to be educated to manage some properties for some private investors. And as you know, acting on council, I always provided a website for our strata owners and our council to communicate and access documents, and that's where StrataPress originated from. Was 3 small stratas in Victoria. So 10 years
How many
later,
stratas do you guys support today?
we're getting up. We'll be close. We'll break the 2,000 strata mark in about 3 months.
That's amazing, huh?
Yeah,
That's
2,000 stratas, over 50,000 strata owners registered. About 9,000 realtors and lawyers use the portal to order documents. And yeah, growth is snowballing, so to say.
fantastic.
Yeah.
And today we're here to talk about greening your strata.
Greening. Yeah. So I'll learn something in this as well. I mean, I've got some of my experience to kind of fall back on, but in researching on this, I found some good ideas about how to green your strata or how to save money greening your strata, being more efficient. Almost the same as what we did the last topic about winterizing your strata. There's a lot of common things that you can do to save on energy costs. But in this sense, you're keeping out the heat instead of keeping out the cold in a lot of cases. So we did this screening your strata sustainability checklist. It's not the job of one group alone. Council oversees common property and governance, and the property managers can implement and coordinate programs and help influence owners, through their behavior. But this is just to kind of help identify where you can actually be more green efficient and at the same time save some money.
Everybody loves that.
Yeah. So, okay, I better watch what you're putting on the screen here. So yeah, the checklist. I'll just go through 5 points of each one of these just to kind of give you some ideas. So, greening your strata, initially clarify roles and legal boundaries early. So, councils should clearly document what sustainability actions fall under common property and what remains voluntary under an owner level choice. So this avoids confusion, prevents councils from unintentionally overstepping their authority under the Strata Property Act. And this means, review your bylaws and rules related to alteration, utilities, and common property. That's clarifying legal boundaries. Use education as a primary tool, not enforcement. So you can create simple guides, a one-page tip sheet, those type of things. Host a short webinar for your strata owners or an information session on the property to talk about greening and steps people can take. So you want to align your council and property manager and owner communication so it's consistent. So you have consistent messaging across the council minutes, updates, other communication. Just keep that stuff documented so everybody's on the same page and can coordinate all your tracking and performance. Number 4, encourage participation through incentive and recognition. And the recognition is really simple, just to call out people who are doing a good job, acknowledging, people participating. You can put that in a newsletter or an annual report, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then lead by example through common property improvements. So council can set the tone and improve sustainability on common property first, and people will see that visible action, and it builds trust and encourages owners to follow suit within their own units. So,
Certainly. I mean, that process, I think, started more than a decade ago with some of the LED lighting initiatives that some buildings undertook. and it has continued to expand from there as HVAC opportunities have changed and evolved with heat pumps. And obviously, the electrification of more vehicles has meant a lot of EV charging projects. So, lots of good things to talk about.
Yeah. And that's a good point. When you're starting this, before making changes, you want to have a benchmark, a footprint, it's a baseline, I should say, not a benchmark, a baseline. So before making improvements, you want to understand the current performance of your electrical use and energy use and stuff like that. So you have to review utility bills, energy usage, water consumption, take a look at your waste hauling expenses, and basically just get an idea of where you're at right now. So track the last 12 to 24 months, provides a benchmark, and that helps measure progress. So the first thing you want to do is see where you're at right now. Take a look at your bills, take a look at the last 1 or 2 years, 2 years probably better, and then use that to to start with.
Total self promo flag, like we benchmark for you. Ask me
Yeah.
for an annual benchmark report. We'll tell you how you compare to the buildings most like yours.
Yeah, exactly. And that starts
Yes.
with understanding what you already have. Like I said, collect electricity, gas bills, water bills, last 24 months. Take a review. Take a look at what's going on with your property and where you're spending money on energy costs or garbage removal or those type of things.
Yeah.
So you can track energy and water trends, not just totals. So you can create a spreadsheet to track monthly usage. You can track that on a monthly basis if you want. Then you can see year over year comparisons. You can see sudden spikes that might indicate an issue with leaks or equipment. And I'll just tell you this, I was at a Bearland Strata and we all have shared water. And 1 month, the water cost came in at like 4 times the usual cost. And I was astounded. I was like, how this must have been a mistake. But as it turns out, through some investigation, we discovered we had a pond area, a natural pond behind one of the houses that kind of stretched out amongst many homes. And one person was selling their house, and the water table on the pond was low. So they threw their hose in there and turned it on and left it running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fill the pond so it looked better for a sale. So you can identify spikes like that if you're keeping track on a monthly basis where your water is going, those type of things. Or you can
That's
just discover
hilarious.
it could have been
I mean,
an
it was probably good. The pond looked great.
pond looked great. Lots of frogs now. And that attracts the otters and then the raccoons and all kinds of stuff.
The
So
pest chain.
yeah, and
Fantastic.
I didn't even know what to say to the person. I was like, oh my gosh, that was not a smart move. I
Yeah.
think to fill a pond costs about $500, I guess. Back
Well,
then,
now
that
you know.
was close to 20 years ago.
That was
Where are
20.
we at? Okay, wait, I did think there was a couple more points on that last one. I'll just hit real quick.
Yep.
Um,
Sorry, I thought that you had talked about the
yeah,
baseline.
yeah. This is a baseline for just documenting. I guess you're right. The baseline helps support better decision making. That's what I wanted to hit.
For sure.
So without making assumptions, improving energy efficiency in common areas. So common areas will give you the quick wins, offer the fastest and least disruptive ways to identify where you can save. And that's on LED lighting, for instance, motion sensors, timers, daylight control, that type of thing. If you use those, you can significantly reduce electricity costs. And you would try and identify those savings or where you can make improvements, especially on lighting in parkades is a big one. Hallways, stairways, mechanical rooms, elevators, any amenity space, where people aren't there all the time. We would have motion detectors that would turn on lights for you. In our parkade, we replaced the developer had built the development with these sodium halide high pressure bulbs. And we replaced those, all of them. It was a huge savings. Those bulbs suck up so much energy. And they're like, I think 150 to $200 each, those bulbs. And
Wow.
I had like 25 of them to get rid of. And I tried to sell them. And like literally nobody wanted them. And they were
Right.
brand new because it was a new development. So go to the points.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
hit
Yeah,
those
lots
up.
of good ideas there. You know what surprises me, Sean, is that, 20 plus years ago in Europe, every hallway was on motion sensors.
Yeah.
And I still don't think that's very common here. It's not like I've been in many of the downtown strata
Stairwells.
buildings, but
Yeah.
but but yeah, it seems like a really obvious incremental gain for
Yeah.
buildings.
You see that a lot now driving to the parkade. Things light up as you drive to different areas. The stairwells have lighting or motion detectors in the stairwells to light things up. And they'll stay on and they go off when nobody's using them. There's no point in lighting up a stairwell on a 10-story building if
Yeah, I
nobody's
mean,
using.
it's empty 99 point something
Yeah,
percent of the time, so,
exactly.
yeah.
So, what can you start with? Start with lighting upgrades for immediate savings. Like I said, switching um, high, especially in high use areas, parkades and hallways and so on. Switch to a more efficient lighting. You can find, by the way, resources for this. You Google BC Hydro LED lighting. You can find rebates on these products. Natural Resources Canada has lighting efficiency guides as well. You can just Google Natural Resources Canada under lighting, things like that. So you can, I'll reference a few as we go along where you can Google. BC Hydro has some good information. So add controls to reduce unnecessary time. Got your motion detectors. Target those unused areas that are using, high consumption mechanical rooms. They're barely used by residents, and maybe a worker. I've seen this. You have a mechanical room or an elevator maintenance room, and it's a mechanical. Turn on the light, turn off the light. But somebody working there leaves the light on and leaves, and they have the only key to that because it's their elevator thing, and they leave these lights on inside. And it's like there's no point having those lights on when they come once every couple of months to do some maintenance work. So that's why you want to review these areas where typically owners don't go, and maybe even the council doesn't go. Open those doors, see if the lights are on or off, see if they need motion detectors or a timer. You can use timers as well, and um, and then you'll see greater savings with your electricity. And that comes back to comparing utility bills this year and next year and see where the savings happen. And
Yeah,
and
that's
part of the consideration when you're investing in these things is not just what it costs to implement, but what are you going to save in a year from now? And work that into your calculations as well. I think electricity is pretty easy formula to measure. There's a kilowatt per hour price. You can look at what you're running as how much energy it uses, and then just add up the amount of time times the price per kilowatt hour, and you can figure out what your costs are for running um, lights or other stuff. So yeah,
great.
measure
That's
results. Share,
yes,
yeah,
that's
share the savings with everybody. Let the council know. Let the owners know where you've saved, so they're happy. They can have some momentum moving forward with that stuff. So building envelope.
this is a big one. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And this was part of the, winterization. You had to really check to make sure your building envelope is maintained properly. So a well-maintained building envelope is one of the most effective sustainable measures available. Sealing drafts, maintaining windows and doors, addressing insulation gaps, managing moisture intrusion, um, and protecting the building from long-term deterioration and costly repairs. So we want to get into making sure, especially if you're new on council, you should take a walk around the building and have a look at the nooks and crannies and the areas behind the bushes and things like that, and check the windows that you can access, and have owners check their windows and their doors that face the outside for worn weather stripping or gaps under the doors, those type of things. So 5 practical action steps and resources. So understand the building envelope. Like I said, all where things join: roofs, walls, corners, windows, doors. That's where there can be moisture damage or heat loss, those type of things. Or in this case, trying to keep the heat out if it's summertime and you're running some cooling system indoors, then you want to make sure you're not just pushing that cool air outside as well. So inspect seals, drafts, look for air leaks, around windows. Like I said, just kind of repeating myself. Natural Resources Canada, you can Google that. They have an air sealing guidance information. And then, like I said, we can put the links up under the video after it's put online. And okay, what number three, manage moisture proactively.
I mean, this is a really interesting one because it can be from several different sources. Obviously, you've got your points of potential ingress near windows, and some people have problems with that. But you can have plumbing issues, you can have roof issues, and all of that contributes to potential moisture um, from water, and the
Yeah,
hidden damage that comes with that can be really significant because behind the walls you could be dealing with mold issues, you could be dealing with things that are affecting your attic, and so that's a big one.
it's a big one because it mostly goes unnoticed until there's significant damage.
Yeah.
And so that's why I got to really look closely at those areas, monitoring the roofs and exterior walls, and making sure a big one people don't really think about is proper drainage. You could have your roof is nice and secure and dry and no leaks, but on the ground, it could be spreading water not properly drained away from the building, could be going into around the foundation, starts creating problems there, under flashing, and could wear away sealant as well a lot quicker. So yeah, you got to be aware of those things. And then once you identify them, last point, you can align envelope care with long-term planning and budget. So your depreciation report can accurately reflect where you need to get more serious about where your inspection should be, especially on the envelope. Look at your depreciation report and its planning. You can plan upgrades in phases to manage costs and disruption as well. So that should be part of the depreciation report planning, long-term planning with dealing with greening your property is not to just go out there and go, we need to do all these steps. You need to incorporate that into what you already have planned and not make it a separate project. I think I talk about that a little further here as well.
Good, because that's a really great point. You're there, you live there, inspect it, take care of that preventative maintenance, and then make the bigger changes when you're already having to spend the money.
Yeah, everything lines up and there's alignment and there's no special budgets required and you can work it into what you're already proposing to maintain. So, in addition to the building envelope, another big one, this big expense, heating, ventilation, and cooling optimization. So these are the biggest energy, components of your building. They're going to suck up the most energy. So you got to have regular servicing on boilers. You got to tune your furnace if you have one. Balancing systems, upgrading controls that can improve efficiency without a full system replacement. So good ventilation supports indoor air quality, which remains a priority alongside energy savings. So confirm regular service and system performance. I always look at this from a point of view of a brand new Strata Council member who's just volunteered. And they're wondering, it's not just a matter of walking into the council and being on council. You need to get up to speed. So you need to understand when was the maintenance last done on this building. You can look at records or you can just walk around the property and take a look at where there's areas for cost effective savings, improve efficiency, extend equipment life, things like that. Want to make sure nothing's breaking down, make sure your HVAC system's working properly, ventilation's working properly. So it's one of those things we've talked about before where councils, new members come on board, have a checklist, have an onboarding document. And it's a great way for everybody on council to, and if they're new or not, to review the property and take a walk around and do a visual inspection of what's going on. So during that inspection, you can look at where you can optimize systems. So that might be like for a cooling system or an HVAC system. How is it set up? When was it set up? Is it configured properly? Has it been adjusted in the last 2 or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years? You got to look at the thermostat schedules. You got to look at how it's programmed, and is it running at the right times of day? Is it running when it should be running? Those type of things. So you want to review all these things.
Really good points.
Yeah,
Uh, I would say that when we did our renovations at the house that we purchased, that the heat pump that we put in was the best bang for buck
yeah,
of all of the work that we did. It has improved the comfort, and it obviously has been more efficient than the previous solutions, gave us access to cooling that didn't exist in my home before.
hmm
Um, and yet overall, we're still saving money as a result of having more efficient heating through the winter. So
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent for that.
It is good because it does, directly relate to the indoor air quality in your building. So proper ventilation supports health, comfort, long-term building performance. So you got to compare, like, make sure the ventilation rates in your building and the equipment you're using meets current code and health standards. You got to look at replacing filters. Have a recommended, schedule of when filters are replaced. Take a look at humidity levels in areas where you expect it to be dry, to prevent mold and condensation. Again, Health Canada has, you can Google Health Canada indoor air quality guidelines, and you'll find information about that, and so on. And like I mentioned before, full plan incremental improvements instead of full replacements. So work this into upcoming other regular maintenance scheduled things, either replacing on a depreciation report or just annual review of stuff. You don't have to make these individual projects. You just have to incorporate them into upcoming upgrades, and do it all at the same time. Save money and on capital costs and everything else. So
Great comments.
yeah, practical water conservation strategies. So water efficiency reduces costs, of course, and supports regional conservation goals. We know we get slapped sometimes with rules about when you can water your property or use your water. I mean, there's water restrictions happen across BC, on a regular basis, I'm pretty sure. So you want your council to address leaks, install low flow fixtures in common areas, upgrade irrigation systems. You can add rain or soil sensors, review landscaping water needs, and make sure those are in line with local bylaw and climate conditions.
Yes.
So let's take a look at that.
One thing
Identifying.
I've noticed about certain environments, sorry, Sean, is that
Right.
you can change to more native landscaping, and that in many cases is much more efficient and actually looks great too.
Yeah,
Even in the very wet coastal climate that we have in British Columbia, a lawn in the summertime can be quite unsightly because it all yellows and browns because of the water restrictions.
that's right.
So, yeah.
And you're foreshadowing an upcoming slide on landscaping. Yeah. But
There
it's a
we
good
go.
point for sure. When it comes to water, your landscaping can be a big draw on your water. So this one, identify and address water loss first. And there is places you can Google online. Again, there's commercial services out there that provide detectors that can be installed in your building. I get one that's always addressed to me. It's called Alert Labs. I think they're out of Ontario. They're always sending me information because they target stratas and they target StrataPress because they want to reach out to our audience. But they send me information all the time. I signed up on something, and now I have this information
Right.
about their commercial water leak detectors, um, come at me on a regular basis, almost
I
monthly.
love those things. I put those into my house, and they're fantastic.
Yeah. So you can look at that. There's other resources online for just detecting water leaks. There's services and actual devices that even use AI and data collection to identify water leaks. And so you got to identify water loss first. It's like having a credit card with a crazy balance and you're just paying the interest on it. It's the same thing. If you got a water leak somewhere and you don't identify it, you're just flushing money down the drain, so to speak. So that's the first thing. Second, upgrade common area fixtures for immediate savings. So be a tough one, but low flow toilets. Maybe you can encourage owners. Maybe you can put together a program to install low flow toilets, faucets, shower heads. Shower heads are probably an easy one. Even if you're strata, maybe it's a small strata, you invest in that. Everybody gets a new low flow shower head for the summer. It's a bit of investment, but there's savings on the other side of that as well. So might need some incentive or at least some discounts. You can Google Clean BC Water or Clean BC, I should say, to find water efficient resources. Also, Natural Resources Canada, Google that. You'll find some water saving product guidance as well there. Modernize irrigation systems. So some irrigation systems, I don't know how old they have to be. When I looked at our irrigation system, and we had like 4 different zones, and we had to program this thing to work with the city bylaws about water usage and time of
For
day,
sure.
and 4 different zones, and then programming this thing so it all works properly. And then, for me, it was almost easier for me to stay on council, because trying to show somebody how to run these things, it was like, I might as well do it myself. So I might as well just stay here. There is user guidelines, user books, but you got to be willing to sit down and figure out from a little booklet how to use this complicated irrigation timing system, so all your water and everything gets um, watered properly with the right proper amount of water, and without getting too frustrated by it. It can be complicated, but you have to sit down and figure those things out. So irrigation systems, they're probably a lot more modern, maybe a lot easier to use now, but I'm sure some of them back in the day are probably just turn them on,
I'm
turn them off.
smiling because my father was the master of irrigation systems, and
Yeah.
he had configured everything. It was brilliant. But if you don't have the mindset for that, then some of that can be a bit cumbersome.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's getting better.
Yeah, and it's quite it feels good when you do it right. When you're like, because I'd run irrigation during the night or early in the morning, and because it's cooler and it's better for the plants and it's not intrusive to anybody. But you could hear the water come on at 4 in the morning, and I was like, yeah, I programmed that right. At least I got it right. So there's some some accomplishment, reward, and seeing your irrigation system coming on properly and timing, and all that stuff. Small wins.
Small wins.
Yeah.
And as
So
you track the results,
track
you can
results.
support those decisions in the future. It doesn't take a lot if you have common fixtures throughout most of the units in your building to figure out what it would take for that shower head or that sink to be retrofit with a lower flow solution. Might be something that you guys invest in as a strata. It won't cost that much money to put in the little low flow, but it will probably be noticeable on your next water bill.
Yes, exactly. If you track water usage before and after improvements, then share those savings and those results with all the owners. That'll help with momentum, with understanding that we're actually doing something that's making a difference, saving us some money. Maybe our strata fees don't go up so much next year. Um, that type of thing. And it feels good. Responsible environmental stewardship, being compliant with water usage and things like that is always good as well.
I love your AI images. They're great. They're getting better at generating, clear text and pictures.
Yes.
But
I paid an
still
illustrator
some
$1,000
liberties
a
taken.
slide. What are you talking about AI? I was like, this took 6 months to put together. No, it's
Really,
definitely
your
AI.
spelling of recycling is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't really look at some of those. Yeah,
Uh,
there's some weird things going on with those images.
but they're great. The
Yeah,
ability to generate something that actually tells a story. We all know what the recycling looks like. The spelling of the sign is not that important. What is important, of course, is the story you're getting on here about waste reduction and
yes.
being more
Yeah,
efficient. So
right.
tell us a little bit about that before I bring up your points.
Okay, so many stratas already have recycling organic programs. Containment can remain a challenge. Not putting, the proper stuff in the proper bins. So there's some helpful, clear signage is helpful. Maybe get away from using recycling, use the symbols, maybe use the color code of the bin as indicators of what you go in here, what you go in here. If you just have a bunch of blue bins and you're expecting people to
Yeah,
sort their recycling properly,
yeah.
it's never
Give
going to
give them
happen.
the cues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give them some guidance there. This goes along with, consistent bin layouts, so don't move them around all the time. Make sure they're where they're expected to be, and people just, "Oh, the recycling bin's on the right." Education with the residents, um, and then reducing contamination can lower hauling costs, because they people hauling your garbage away and your recycling and your garbage and everything, they will charge you for decontaminating or pulling out recyclable material or non-recyclable material from the bins they shouldn't be in. So they'll bill you for that as well. So you got to be on have proper signage and proper education for people. So that comes in 5 practical points
Points.
here
Yeah.
you can look at. So uh, understand current waste streams and costs. So if you're new on council, who's doing your pickup? How are they organizing it? Like, yeah, do you have recycling? Do you have an organics program? Are your bins the proper size? Are they being picked up at a useful frequency? Usually it's like once a week, but maybe it needs to be more or less. Um, and identify when the garbage and bin and recycling has issues. Like usually that's around move-in days, the end of the month. People doing renovations around holidays is another big one because you won't get pickup on holidays if for an extended time. How do you accommodate that so you don't have garbage just being thrown on the floor or people getting lazy and dumping their recycling into the garbage
Yeah.
because the bins are full? Those type of things. Number two, improve signage. I just mentioned this. Ensure the bin.
Visuals. Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes such
visual.
a huge difference. They put the pictures on at the mall, and the amount of proper sorting went up dramatically just
Yeah,
because people could see their item in their hand and put it in the right spot.
that's right. Image-based signage, proper color for the bins. Remove any unofficial, outdated signage. Remove the old stuff. Things like that. Um, Education is the next one. Educate everybody regularly, not just once. So this would be, you have a waste program and you want to tell people you're gonna do organics and recycling and garbage. So you don't just tell them once. You have to make it a point to include that information with minutes of meetings. Um, Provide that information for people who are moving in the welcome package. Do reminders if you have a newsletter or a portal. Put the information where people can see it over and over and
Good
over.
idea.
Yeah.
Sean,
So,
we've had John come in and talk about batteries.
oh,
Good comment here. Bigger and bigger deal, right? Having a battery recycling program is a great idea, not
yeah,
only for the environment but also for fire protection. It can be an easy add-on, but uh, the number of obviously batteries that you generate as a building is much higher than for an individual residence, and
yeah,
that's a really good point.
and probably not just batteries like for your car, but batteries that you're using in your
Oh,
devices.
all of your
All the
batteries,
batteries.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I use rechargeable ones for most purposes now. They last better than they did when I was a kid. So,
Mhm.
all those little ones that you can get rechargeable. But yeah, if you've got a battery recycling bin and program in your building, I think you'll notice good uptake on that, and that is good for both the environment and for managing your fire risk. So,
Yeah,
really good point from John.
that was a good point. Yes, indeed. Makes a lot of sense for sure. What else we got on here? Use audits feedback target problem areas. So you can talk to your hauler about, hey, do you have a battery program? Maybe you can add that to what they haul away for you. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but that's something you can ask them is for sure. But ask them also if you know on council what identify what they can haul away. What contaminations are acceptable, what's not acceptable. What will they charge you extra for? Because if you're
And you'll
doing
know from the state of your room, like, whether there are consistent problems, and hopefully you're using that feedback from owners about which bins are full or mess
yeah,
to help target those problem areas.
that's right. And you could look locally as well at your municipal government, like Metro Vancouver or something. They most of them have waste reduction programs where they either have recycling set up, maybe you have to take it down yourself, maybe it can be hauled away at a fee, that type of thing. But look into what your local government provides as far as waste reduction programs go.
Good.
And yeah, the last point was that's that point. Like don't contaminate, don't cross contaminate, your bins because you'll get charged to sort that out.
Here was my foreshadowing,
That
Sean.
is. That's right. Sustainable landscapes. This is a good one for me because I like the drought resistant rock gardens. I think they look great. Having lived in Vegas for a couple of years, I was like, rock gardens can be pretty impressive.
They
And you
can.
don't have to you don't have to mow them, you don't have to water them. They just look great. They're fun. So landscaping choice have long-term costs and environmental impacts. Native or drought tolerant plants, reduce chemical use, efficient irrigation, soil health practices, lower maintenance costs and water usage. So
Yeah,
that's my
lots of good things for the environment and for your space. So,
exactly. So, and again, new on Strata, take a walk through your landscaping and take a look at what you got. Evaluate existing landscaping for water and maintenance demands. So, take a look at your irrigation schedules, your water use, and your seasonal program. Because the other thing about the whole programming your irrigation, you don't just leave it all year. You got to change it or turn it off completely in the winter, of course, um, depending on how much rain you expect in the spring and summer and so on. Might need more water in the summer, but you can figure that out. That's all we mean by looking at where you live. Can have a lot to do with what you can put in your gardens. So transition to native drought tolerant plants, phase out high maintenance plants. I'm not sure what plants are high maintenance, but I know there's a lot of like succulents
Well,
that require as much.
some cause a lot of debris, and that's a
Mm,
lot of work, a lot of maintenance, and upkeep as the leaves fall, in the autumn. I had Atkinson come on to talk about landscaping issues, and some of the projects that they do to try and make things more efficient. And Paris based joined me to talk about arborists and the best practices for selecting the right trees. So there's a lot of really good advice you can get out there from your landscaper about these issues, and
yes,
I think you should ask them for sure.
and we had a big landscaping like our 75 units. We had a lot of landscaping. We were surrounded by plants on all sides. So if you're going to make a change, you can do it to just one specific little area, like do a little trial area, little pilot, excuse me, little pilot area to demonstrate a success before, wider changes. So you don't have to rip everything up. Just do one little small area, see how it goes, and use that to support further expanding either with a different type of plants, different type of landscaping, those type of thing. You can Google BC Native Plant Society and you can find information about what plants are native around BC that you could use. Those usually require less care and less water because they're native here. They're going to survive basically on what they've been given for the last few centuries, I'm sure, as far as rainfall goes and everything like that. Reduce chemical use. There's a few ways you can do this here, but pest management practices don't want to use chemicals necessarily on plants. Um, or you don't want to get that stuff on your plants. Pest management practices. I saw something else today. Somebody was showing as well as they had this garden area and it had a lot of little weeds and it was kind of a rock bed. And they said nobody wants to get down there and pick out all the weeds. So it's like they just keep leaving it. Well, this new device is like this torch. It has like a 1500-degree flame on it. And they just walked through the garden basically and it just burnt all of the little weeds. Just
Wow.
burnt them up and they were gone.
That's fascinating. I mean, I'm having used a torch on my brick driveway, I can tell you that they come back pretty quick because you're
Oh, do
not
they?
getting the roots, but who knows? Maybe at that temperature you do.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
I didn't think about that. Of course, it's always in the roots, right? So you have to pull up the whole plant, get the root too.
But it looks great for the next week.
It
Um,
does.
but I think that there could be something there. That's a
I,
fascinating concept.
I think to avoid, for some of those areas that are easy to reach using moss, if you can go out into the wild, you can pick up moss, big chunks of moss, and just stuff it in between rocks or stuff it between, areas that got sunlight between steps and stuff. And moss is better than weeds and it looks good
For sure.
and you can walk
Yeah,
on it, that type of
it
thing.
does look good.
Yeah.
And if
So
you
there's
get something that
lots.
provides that good ground cover, then that's obviously,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, pretty easy for maintenance.
Maintains moisture as well. So we talked about irrigation efficiencies and controls, making sure your schedule of your irrigation system is used properly. Um, what other resources can you use here? Plan landscaping is a long-term asset, not seasonal expense. So align landscaping upgrades with your depreciation report again, your recommendations. And you could also track water and maintenance savings over time. Um, if you treat this like a long-term asset, um, I don't know if you can track water usage just on an irrigation line. There might be a device you can get that can tell you how much you're using.
There are for sure.
Yeah. So you can use that stuff as well. And there's lots of
Well, I mean,
online.
you talk about these water sensors and leak detection, which are fantastic, but some of them are there to pick up even consistent dripping. If you've got that micro flow through a line, that
Mhm.
tells you that you've got a leak somewhere
Yeah.
or someone has left something running, and it can send you an alert. Would have been really handy for your fellow that decided to fill up an entire pond. Um, for sure. Anyway, that's a good topic. Love
Yeah.
landscaping, and oh, look at this, the electric vehicles.
Yeah, the EVs. These two people standing in the garden on a walking path.
I
Anyway,
don't know if I believe that it's that green. I mean, these batteries come from somewhere and your power is generated from something. And I see the wind turbines in the background, but if you see where they bury those blades, I'm a bit of a
yeah,
skeptic on that. But EVs are here; they are part of our future, and planning ahead for that obviously makes sense. Why don't I
yes.
bring up the points, Sean? You can run through them.
Okay, well, planning's the key word, not panic.
Yeah.
So the council's got to understand what their electrical capacity of their building is first to manage what they're going to do with EVs, and then it's likely going to have to be a phased approach. So there you go. EV readiness starts with knowing what the building can support today. Assumptions will lead to problems. So you have to look at existing electrical drawings, at load calculations. You have to engage a qualified electrical engineer to assess the available capacity. You have to identify constraints of the service, transformers, panel levels, things like that. There's technical safety BC. You can Google that, and you can get electrical safety information. Not that you should be playing around with it too much, but just so you understand what's involved. And BC Hydro has some guidance on their website about service upgrades and things like that. So understand what's going on with your electrical first, plan for demand management and load sharing. So you can explore energy management systems designed for multi-unit buildings. You can look into that, Google that. Understand how load sharing and scheduling reduce peak demand. So you could have, in theory, different plug-in stations run at different times of day, maybe depending on the
Those
owner.
systems are amazing. Sanjay Maharaj of Electric Asset came on a couple months ago and talked us through this so that you didn't go over that peak load and increase your total charging, and so that everyone's vehicle would get charged overnight. It was
Okay.
actually a really
Yeah.
informative session. So yes, these EMSs are fantastic.
Yeah. So that's good. Load sharing and scheduling to reduce peak demand. Adopt a phased and scalable approach. You could do a pilot with a limited number of chargers to test the system and policies and see how it works with owners. Not everybody's driving into a parkade with an electrical vehicle yet. So there's going to be time yet to phase implementation as ED adoption grows over time. So you want to plan for that. Do a pilot program, see how it goes. Go to Clean BC and Google that, Clean BC. Look for the EV infrastructure planning tools, and you can probably find some guidance on some of the municipal websites as well.
There are really great incentives for strata corporations right now on EV,
Good.
and some of them are meant for phased and will allow you to do it year over year and put in a certain number of stalls. And
Right.
others of them are temporary, and you never know how long they're going to last. So
Right. Number 4, establish fair cost allocation with governance early. So you're not getting into this after the fact. You want to set some policies to reduce conflict, ensure fairness between current and future users. So the council, maybe with the assistance of your property manager, can develop some written policies for installation usage and cost recovery. So that not everybody's covering the cost of charging everybody else's car, as far as electricity use goes and things like this. So you want to establish that stuff early to avoid conflict. You can align EV policies with existing bylaws. You might have to consider new bylaws when it comes to EV policies. I know the Condo Homeowners Association, CHOA, they have an EV guidance information as well. I saw that a little while ago. So you can
great.
Google them, CHOA, Condominium Homeowners Association of BC, see what they have about EV installation.
Mhm.
Future-proof infrastructure for emergency technology. So these are, again, comes back to coordinating with your upcoming already existing planning. So coordinate EV planning with future heat pump or energy upgrades, and make sure that your infrastructure can support all of the upgrades. So you're not just considering what you're going to put in place today, but you have future upgrades to consider. You got to make sure your electrical um,
Can handle
availability
it.
can handle everything.
That's what's in your electrical planning report. So
Yeah,
get
good
one.
thing to have.
Yeah.
Electrical planning report, which I don't think is talked about quite enough yet. I don't think people understand what that's for, but that's a prime example of let's install an EV station without considering what we have to upgrade in the future. You could
Yeah.
be stuck. You might have to
Yeah.
remove things in order to
Yeah.
have the balance of the power that you require for these upgrades. The people you work with, vendors. So here's a little tip: you can work with vendors who use environmentally responsible products, efficient equipment, and have best practices for reducing environmental impact, and doing all this without increasing cost or risk. So your council can influence that type of thing by working with companies that have these best practices as kind of their best practices. I mean, if you're going to choose a landscaping or a pest control, you're going to use somebody who uses chemicals, or you can use somebody who uses natural remedies.
So long as they work, I'm all for that.
Yeah, and it shouldn't add to cost. Maybe it does, but your cost shouldn't always be, or your choice shouldn't always be based on cost savings, or you want to maintain that you work with a company that's reliable and provides good value, but just incorporates environmentally sustainable business practices.
Practices.
And they'll tell you, put it in your pitch, put it in your request for a proposal, that you want to understand what um, their best practices are regarding the chemical use and everything. That goes with cleaning products inside your building as well. So you got somebody cleaning bathrooms, or not common areas, things like that. We always had a cleaner walking through common areas and vacuuming and using chemicals on, cleaning the stairwells and stuff like that. What are they using? And maybe you could put that into your quote. I wouldn't base all your decision 100% on that, but it's nice to include that as,
I think that's a future discussion topic, Sean. I'll have someone on to talk about eco-friendly cleaning products.
yeah, lots of those. So there we are. What's the next slide?
Perfect.
I think we covered
We're on to
everything.
sustainability.
Budgets and depreciation. Okay, so we've been talking about this all the way through this. Green initiatives work best when treated as part of asset management and not special projects. So your energy upgrades, envelope improvements, infrastructure planning should all align with what's in your depreciation report and your operating budget. So, work it into what you're going to do. And, you know, that's the point here. So,
Absolutely.
you know,
Let's get those points up. So obviously it is part of your existing asset management. You're
yes.
not just, doing this as an add-on. It is part of that process. And I think the more that your owners buy into that, the greater the effects get amplified, because
Mhm.
they'll run their taps less. They'll consider putting in those low flow. They'll consider those light upgrades for within their unit and make some of those decisions. Although I think if you told them about those sodium, what were
Yeah,
those
right.
lights that you?
High pressure sodium halide, something like that.
Yeah, okay, so not those apparently.
No, they burn as hot as
Like
the
some of
sun.
those.
Yeah,
Got it. Well, if you need heating, apparently those could be a good choice.
they really could.
Um,
If you don't
yeah,
want fingerprints, you can just grab one of those bulbs as you twist it. I've burned off my fingerprints on one of those
that is
bulbs.
shocking. I
Yes,
would never think about that anymore. I'm so used to grabbing the LED bulbs,
I
which
know.
unless you're grabbing the base, which does get pretty hot depending on the bulb.
They get
The
hot
bulbs themselves
fast.
haven't been since I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, treat it as an asset management. Look at your depreciation report. Identify upcoming renewals that align with efficiency upgrades. Flag them. Take a look at where those fit in with your upcoming maintenance issues. Align green upgrades with operating reserve budgets. Make sure what you want to do is actually in the budget or can be incorporated into the budget. So if you're going to replace your landscaping, maybe it's not all done in 1 year. Maybe that budget for landscaping, it has to be stretched over 2 or 3 years to fully. But that gives you an opportunity to do a little pilot test program as well, and use portion of the budget that's already existing for that. Use life cycle costing to support decisions. So compare options based on total cost of ownership, not just purchase price. That means look at what the financial savings are on the energy or water as part of the decision. So not just looking at, well, is this going to cost? You got to look at what's it going to save you as well, and work that into your budget and your decision making, because you'll find that that savings could definitely offset any potential costs, hidden costs, things like that. And the savings over time will be a lot more because they just keep happening.
Sure.
Better to do it now, I suppose. Switch from those high expensive, high energy use bulbs, switch to LED or whatever for that. Rebates. Yeah, Clean BC has rebates. Google them. Google BC Hydro. Google Fortis BC. They have incentive programs that you can see, and you can get money for doing these changes. So take a look at those. And those programs are always changing. And then communicate all these benefits to the owners. So owners can see it's clearly linked when sustainability is linked to cost control, risk reduction, and property value. So reducing your costs now, and you're looking to sell your place or move in 5 years, it's going to be a lot more attractive as far as your monthly strata fees when you can reduce energy costs now and see the savings over time. So
For
yeah,
sure.
communicate that to owners. That keeps the momentum going. That makes people understand things are actually working. They're saving. Uh, Educate them on a regular basis. Repeat things over and over about garbage and recycling. Um, that'll help people adopt these things, and it'll be just common sense and common behavior.
For sure.
So
And that encourages their participation, as you've got on the slide.
there we
Um,
go. Yeah,
let's see what the
councils,
next updates.
they must guide. They can't really mandate. They want to provide incentive. They want to provide what is it when you do something and they see you do it. You know,
Yes, but they can do that well, as you've got here in point one, is setting those clear expectations of what's voluntary, because not everybody has to make a change. If you like the tone of light that you get from a particular fixture style, then that's in your unit, that's your decision, right?
right.
There's certain things that are voluntary, but these
Yeah. So
informing them will encourage that participation.
exactly, in the process of forming them, you have to distinguish what's common property, they're going to be taken care of as far as the council goes, and what is unit level choices. Give them recommendations, but not directives. Give them helpful information. Point them to resources online. BC Government Strata Housing
Mm.
has information on their website as well about encouraging people to participate in these programs. Provide practical, actionable information owners can use. Yeah, there you go. Just a short guide. Put a guide together on energy efficiency appliances, lighting, and fixtures that they can use inside their unit. Water saving tips on what am I trying to say? The toilets, the fixtures, things you have inside. Clean BC has program information on their website as well about that stuff. Integrate education into existing communication channels. So add the information to your AGM package, to your newsletters, to your Strata portals. Put it on your move-in guide. Put it on any renovation information packages, anywhere you are
Yeah.
communicating with the Strata owner, and it makes sense to talk about sustainability and climate action, then you can include that. And it's not being pushy, it's just providing people with information to benefit for themselves and to highlight those benefits that matter. So share examples of reduced utility costs. Simple visuals and summaries, little case studies, things like that can help. You know,
Excellent points.
yeah. And the last point was sharing success stories. Say where we did this is what happened, or even if it happened in another building, or maybe it's an experience you had personally that you can share with other owners. Share that information so people feel informed and respected at the same time, and motivated to contribute to sustainability efforts on their own terms. And
Makes
everybody will be
sense.
happy, just like this little
It's like
slide.
those folks, they look
Those
happy.
ones. That's right. Oh,
And someone that's interested in having a better way to communicate with
yes.
their owners, Sean.
I can make you happy. I book a demo with us. Go to stratapress.com/book-meeting, and you can talk to me, and we can book a meeting. I could show you everything about the Strata portal and how we use it to educate owners and manage your Strata Corporation's day-to-day operations.
Sean, that was fantastic. You covered everything there, I think. I didn't have any extra questions. I think you've got a lot of leads, and we're going to put some links underneath this
Yeah, we'll put
video
some links.
and
I'm
on
gonna
your post so that we
yeah,
can get that sorted out. Meanwhile, there's a QR code for anyone who's so inclined, right to the StrataPress page. So,
great.
uh,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
hopefully they will get in there
Yeah,
and speak to you about it. But yeah, that's a good one, Sean. I think there's a lot for us to take away here, and you'll return next month.
next
So,
month. Okay.
yeah, I'm looking
And I'll
forward
do
to
another 20-minute presentation that takes roughly 60 minutes.
it.